Hi, I'm Lori. So today I'm going to be making a baby bump shower cake. These are actually just mixing bowls that I had at home, so you don't have to go out and buy new pans. And we're just going to make the body out of these bowls and turn it into a beautiful cake for your baby shower.
So first off, to make the flowers, I'm going to roll out some dark pink fondant and I'm just going to cut out the flower petals. I'm using these 3 different shapes. I will put a link in my description below where you can find these flowers. Once you've cut them out, I'm just using some thin foam mat and I'm using my veining tool, starting at the tip of the flower and pulling in towards the center, and that will actually curl them up like this. You're going to need them to set in forming cups overnight to dry. Once they're dry, you're ready to assemble them with some water. As you can see, I've actually used really tight little small forming cups for the smaller flowers and larger, wider ones for the big ones. That way you get the different shapes of petals. Now I've already baked my cake in these oven-proof bowls. So this is going to be the stomach, and I'm just going to carve around the sides of the cake just to make sure it's nice and even and smooth. And these are going to be the boobies. So I'm just going to take those out of the bowls, and you're going to want to cut the tops of each of the cakes off so that way they sit nice and level on your cake board. Now I'm going to divide these cakes in half. Now the belly is actually pretty tall, so I'm actually going to divide it into 3 sections. And then you're ready to fill them. I'm just filling my cakes using some vanilla buttercream. Now when you take your layer of cake off, try to put it back, when you put it back on, put it back in the same spot. Otherwise, if you haven't cut it perfectly, it might look a little bit wonky and misshapen. So I'm going to start carving the top of the cake. I want there to be a gradual slope from her boobs to her tummy. So that way it doesn't look like someone just stuck a basketball underneath this pregnant woman's shirt. So you're just going to carve down the basically top of the belly. And I'm also taking the tops of the other part of the cake that I cut off and just sticking that in. And I'm just going to crumb coat it using some thin buttercream icing. And that cake will all kind of sit in there nicely together. And just make sure it's nice and smooth. And now I'm just sticking another small piece of cake for her outy little belly button. So I'm going to roll out some skin tone fondant, and I'm going to do this in 2 separate parts. And you can trim around it with some scissors. Just make sure it's nice and flush, and just use some more buttercream icing just to make sure it's nice and smooth and not lumpy. And I've already rolled out my pink fondant for my dress. And you can just readjust that into the place where you're comfortable with it. And I want my dress only to come right underneath her bust line, so I'm actually just going to start trimming that back a little. And then just trim off any other excess if it's too long in certain areas. And then just flow it out. You don't want the dress to kind of just go straight down to the cake board because the dress flows out pretty. And for her top, I'm going to do that in 2 separate sections again. And just pinch the center part together. And then trim that back with just your knife and your scissors as well. Make sure it's nice and smooth, no creases. And then just smooth out the stomach and the boobs, that way you don't have any lumps. You don't want a lumpy belly. And then just put a little water underneath her bust. And I've already rolled out some dark pink fondant and cut it into a long strip. And then just put this is really just a spacer, so that way I can stick my flower on top without it kind of breaking. And 2 more strips. And I'm going to cut this little funky kind of angly thing that you do on ribbons and kind of just flow that down her stomach. And I cut out these really tiny strips that I'm just going to wrap around the top of her shirt just to add a little extra detail, a little bit more color. And for the rest of the flowers, I'm going to use some piping gel, put a little bit on the bottom of the flower and stick that to the cake board. And that's going to help decorate up the cake board and make it look beautiful.
You guys enjoyed the cake. I think it's just really beautiful, and I'm sure that whoever gets the cake, the mother-to-be, is going to absolutely adore it. And if you really like the cake, don't forget to check out my channel where I put out new videos every Tuesday.